Yeah, they absolutely have turned the corner. They lost 3 in a row there at one point. I think that it was a combined 78 points they lost those 3 by. And the last one was an utter evisceration at the hands of Duke in Madison Square Garden. And their response is something that I don't think should be ignored, right? You beat Iowa by 20, which is fine. It's Iowa. Then you go into Ann Arbor and you beat Michigan by 20. And then you go and you take down a Purdue team that more or less outplayed Illinois for, I would say, McCall, for like the first probably 35 minutes of this game. The first half was an absolute masterclass from Braden Smith. Every single possession, they were getting him in those high ball screens. And Matt Painter is elite when it comes to being able to scheme ways to engage the opposite side of the floor while you get Braden coming off those ball screens. And it ended up just being a 2-on-1. And it was he was a professor teaching class in how to operate in ball screens against the drop. And in the second half, I thought that Brad, especially late, started switching up what they were doing, right? They made Braden have to figure out what was happening when he was coming off of those ball screens. We saw Ben Humrickhouse playing small ball 5 for a little bit. They were a little bit more aggressive guarding those ball screens. They were helping a little bit more. Like it was they changed up what they were doing defensively. They made Braden think a little bit. I think it kind of got in his head. They woke up defensively, and then they ended the game on a 13-1 run. Kasparas Yakashonis hitting that step back 3. Finally, it felt like he missed 6 of those shots in a row. And then they finally knocked one down to give Illinois the lead, man. I thought that was a really, really impressive, gutty win. And I don't know if we've seen that kind of win from Illinois all that often this season. I was really impressed by it.
Rob, that's coaching. To make an adjustment like that. Okay, we're playing drop coverage. We're gonna sit back here in the lane, and our big's gonna be back on his heels the entire time. No, we can't do this. We can't play this way. We have to adjust what we're doing on pick and roll coverage to be able to win this game. And that's a tribute to Brad Underwood and what those guys are doing. This is the Illinois team that 7 weeks ago, that we said, hey, this may be the best team in the Big Ten. Oh, wait, they're the most talented team in the Big Ten. They had 5 guys in double figures tonight. The ball is hopping and moving around the floor. 20 assists. Like, this is the team. This is the team that we expected. This is the team that we thought would be the best team in the Big Ten. They ran into a buzzsaw in terms of the illness and everything they were dealing with. And then you look at what they're doing right now to be able to go on the road and beat Michigan like they did. And you mentioned it, Rob. Yep. Iowa's Iowa. But then they followed up with a win like this over Purdue. Like, this is a second weekend NCAA tournament team, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick, John, not to cut you off, I want to make sure to specifically give a shout out to Ben.
I'm running a cutoff counter. That's one.
My bad. I want to give a special shout out to Ben Humrickhouse because he's been a guy that's kind of been maligned at certain times. With the way that Illinois wants to play, maybe some questions about them defensively. And there's been some experimentation with him as a small ball 5. And I thought that the looks where, especially late, they played him at the 5. They forced Purdue to try to throw the ball into him in the post. He was able to wedge him out a little bit, about 12 feet away from the basket. And then as soon as TKR put the ball on the ground, they come over with that double. And Ben Humrickhouse was tough enough and physical enough to be able to make life difficult. And it feels weird saying that when TKR goes for 29-7, 13 for 23 from the floor. But I thought that in the last 5 minutes, Humrickhouse made a couple of really, really important toughness plays. And look, Will Riley came up with the big steal, man. They got to that ball screen again, and Will Riley was able to jump it and stole the ball from Braden Smith, which led to KJ's game-winning 3. I loved what I saw from Illinois. Shout out to Trevor Valise. Our producer, Trevor Valise. No one is happier right now than Trevor Valise. You got to love it, man.
Yeah, I think Brad Underwood's happy. I think Illinois fans are happy. And I'm going to go to Matt because, I would have gone to you, but you had to cut me off. So now you're going to have to face the punishment for that. We're going to Matt. Brad Underwood kind of tipped the hand a little bit, right? I don't remember exactly. It might have been 2 games ago. It was maybe before the Iowa game. He's like, listen, we're healthy again now, right? We've gotten through our various contagions.
What the heck was that, by the way? It was like flu A, flu B,
No,
mononucleosis. Like, are you kidding
that
me?
was that was a novel virus. We're still trying to find out exactly what it was. But I tend to, now that I've got a 3-game sample size since he said that, I'm inclined, Matt McCall, to believe him that the issues that we saw with them in January and February were maybe related mostly to the guys being in and out and that bug, whatever the hell it was, going through the team.
I agree with you. I think, again, how this team plays unselfishly on the offensive end of the floor. I mean, this is the team that we saw. This is the team that we saw a month ago or 2 months ago, or whatever it was, where it's like, hey, is this the best team in the Big Ten? That's where they were trending to. Like, go back to that game against Tennessee, right? Like, it was a 1-possession game on the road. Like, go back to that game at home. Like, to see what they did in that game and how they played. And we're all sitting here like, okay, this may be the best team in the Big Ten. This may be the best team in the Big Ten. And then to your point, John Martin, whatever illness went through that squad, they're young too. And this is good for them.
Yeah.
This what makes me think that this is the most dangerous team too. Like, they went through all that. They went through some adversity. They had to battle through that. And you see what they're doing now. They're dangerous, and they're young, and they grew up, and they had to battle through that. Like, I think this is, man, do not count this squad out. They're a second weekend team in the NCAA tournament, no question about it. And you never heard Brad Underwood make an excuse. Like, it is what it is. We still have to go out there and compete. We have to play the game. We can't hide from the game. We got to go out here and compete.
Rob, let me ask you this. Let me ask one more question about Illinois, unless you got anybody else has additional thoughts, of course. But their style of play has really frustrated me at times. Like, they've been a hate watch for me for most of the year, just because the insistence on shooting the three, and so many nights this year, and really for the majority of tonight, like, wasn't there. I think they started 3 of 3, and then they proceeded to miss their next 11, and they ended up obviously fine because of that late stretch there from 3. But I don't know. I just feel like this team is so good with just scoring the ball when they're just, when they're not settling for threes. Where do you come down on their reliance on that, and just how really all around not, up to snuff this year from that distance?
And look, I get the concept of what Brad is trying to do, right? He has this ball screen maestro. He has a 5-man in Tommy Ivasic that can pick and pop and is a passer and can be that like facilitating 5-man that allows you to play 5 out. He's got guys that in theory can make shots and can shoot. And so I understand what he's trying to do. I think it gets a little bit complicated because some of the pieces that he has is a little bit too specialized. Right, you have some guys that are junkyard dogs, and you have some guys that are shooters, and you have some guys that can guard, and you have some guys that can get to the offensive glass. And there's not a lot of guys that could do a whole bunch of different things combined, right? Well, I think what we saw tonight was Ben Humrickhouse, who is a guy that is there to basically be an offensive weapon and to be a shooter and to do some of the booty ball stuff that they were looking at last year, right? He came up with big defensive stops. Will Riley, who was not exactly known for being a defensive menace, came up with a couple of big defensive stops and made some plays off the bounce. I thought that Trey White specifically, the last 4 games, he's averaging what? I think it's 17.5 points right now. And he has made 9 threes in the last 4 games in that stretch. And I think his emergence as not only one of your kind of defensive wings, the versatile guys on the defensive end of the floor, but someone that can also step up and make a shot. Like, he's a career 28% 3-point shooter, and he's knocked down 9 threes in the last 4 games and shooting it at I believe it is a 60% clip. So if he's making shots, if Ben Humrickhouse is playing defensively, if some of these guys that are specialists in a certain role can be more than that, then that's when Illinois, to me, becomes a really dangerous team, because it's not just like, okay, we got a guy that can shoot, we got a guy that can guard, we got a guy that can get offensive rebounds. It's like they got a bunch of basketball players that also happen to be really good at doing this one thing. And it comes together as more of a team instead of a bunch of guys that can do a certain role.